Have you ever had a complete stranger say, I love you to you, and you just didn't know how to react? Well, today we're going to dive into a really powerful way to reframe that whole experience. We're going to look at two metaphors that completely separate the act of offering love from the act of receiving it. And honestly, it might just change how you think about positive energy entirely. So it all starts with these three little words. I love you. I mean, it's a phrase that can feel like the most meaningful thing in the entire world, right? But what happens when you hear it from someone you don't know from Adam? And this is it. This is the question that immediately pops into our heads. It's that skeptical, almost defensive reaction. And you know what? It's a totally fair question. Our entire understanding of I love you is built on knowing someone, on having a real connection. So when it comes out of nowhere, it can feel, well, fake, jarring even. It's like a shield just goes right up. But what if, instead of just pushing that feeling away, we looked at it differently? The source material we're drawing from suggests something really brilliant. It says the problem isn't the intention behind the words, it's the model we're using in our heads to even understand them. Okay, here's where it gets super interesting. That awkward feeling we get, it comes from this idea of direct transmission. You know, we picture love as this thing that gets sent directly from one person's heart straight into another's. And without that personal connection, it just feels weird and forced. But what if that's not how it works at all? So this brings us to our very first metaphor. And this one is all about the offering part of the equation. Forget that one-to-one direct delivery idea. Instead, I want you to imagine that love is just like a digital file. So here's how the analogy works. Someone creates a file. Let's just call it a file of positive energy, and they upload it to a shared cloud folder. Now, anyone who wants can go in and download an exact copy for themselves. But here's the absolute key. The original file, it's completely untouched. It's still there exactly as it was. And that's the game changer right there. Offering this kind of energy isn't an act of personal sacrifice. It's an act of infinite duplication. The person who puts the file out there, they don't lose a single thing by making it available. It's an abundant, totally limitless resource. Now, we need to be really clear about what we're talking about here. The source calls this generic love. And that's not the personal, romantic, or family love that we feel for specific people in our lives. Think of this more like a universal positive energy that's just offered freely to anyone and everyone who might want to access it. Okay, so we've got this cloud full of freely available positive energy. That totally explains the offering part. But how do we actually receive it? Well, that is where our second metaphor comes into play. To get how the receiving works, I want you to picture one of those old-school analog radios. You know, the kind with the big physical dial that you have to turn carefully to find the right station, hearing all the static in between. So there are two completely separate roles here. You've got the giver, who is like a radio transmitter. They are just constantly broadcasting their positive energy on one specific frequency. That signal is always on 24/7. But for you, the recipient, two things have to happen. First, you need to actually have a radio, meaning you have to be open to receiving in the first place. And second, you have to actively tune your dial to find that exact frequency. And to make this really concrete, the source even gives this frequency a number, 85.7. The transmitter is always broadcasting on 85.7 FM. It's totally up to you to tune your own personal receiver to that exact spot on the dial. And this right here is the big, powerful shift in thinking. The responsibility is no longer on the giver to try and force something on you. The power is 100% with the receiver. You have the choice. You are in control of the dial. You are the one who decides whether or not to tune in. So let's put these two big ideas together now. The offering is like a digital file in the cloud, and the reception is like tuning an old radio dial. When you combine them, you get this complete, elegant model for what we could call the art of receiving. So what's actually in this metaphorical cloud folder anyway? Well, it's not just love. It's this whole collection of amazing, positive energies. Things like confidence, power, happiness, even something as simple as smiles. All of them are just sitting there, available for you to download whenever you want. And this just brings it all home so perfectly. You see how it works? The offer is made, those files are in the cloud. The frequency is announced, it's 85.7. Everything is out there just waiting. There's no pressure, no expectation, just a completely open invitation. But this brings us to one last really critical insight. Because while the offering part is easy and abundant, the act of actually receiving, that can be surprisingly hard. For so many of us, for all kinds of reasons, maybe we feel like we don't deserve it or the timing feels off, we find it so much harder to accept these gifts than it is to give them. And that leaves us with this final thought to chew on. According to this model, that positive energy is always being broadcast. Those files are always sitting in the cloud. The offer is constant. So the real question, well, it isn't about the giver anymore, is it? It's about you. Are you ready to turn your dial to 85.7 and receive what's already being offered?